How do you get so many minis done in a short amount of time? Actually, better question, how does one juggle their work responsibilities, their family, and then their hobby time with their humongous backlog? Hello, my name is Louie of Louie Loves Minis, and welcome to the first ever episode of Hobby MoPro. Hobby MoPro is a show on my channel designed to motivate and give more productivity to hobbyists just like me out there. So subscribe if you're highbrow like me and you think that Hobby MoPro is a cool slang for motivation slash productivity. In this episode, or the first ever pilot episode, I'm going to teach you a method that I use to sort of be able to hobby every day of my life, despite how busy it gets, despite my 9 to 5, and despite my responsibilities at home. This is designed for people who have so many things going on in their lives. This is designed for people who have a lot of responsibilities, and I see a lot of YouTubers who even create content, do hobbies, and run their own family all at the same time. And I'm just going to share you about my little method of the madness on how I hobby every day. And hopefully you guys can be able to do it along the way too. So if you don't think that you're one of these people I'm describing and that you've locked down your hobby method, it'd be great if you could let me know how you do it, because this is something I've just been doing for the past 2 or 3 years, and maybe you could share to the rest of the people and the viewers down below your best tips on how you get through your hobbying or you get through your backlog. Because from my case, it's about hobbying every day. And at the end of this video, and hopefully in the next few episodes, I'm going to teach the rest of you guys on how to hobby every day to keep the sprues away. So when you hobby every day, the first thing or the first step or the first mindset I think I want you guys to think about is to be the tortoise. So when I say be the tortoise, if you guys are familiar with the story of the rabbit and the turtle or whatever version, it's slow and steady wins the race. So while this is not a race, being slow and steady means your progress is always slow and steady, especially in the times when you just wake up or you finish your work and you feel like you don't want to do any hobby at all. But when you think about it, when you remind yourself, okay, just be the tortoise, I'm not in the mood to paint, what's the smallest goal that I can do to just make one small turtle step forward? So keep your goals small. That's the first thing and the first mindset. You don't have to make big strides every day. You don't have to make big strides every week. You just have to keep moving forward. Every day, you whittle away at something. So the example of these steps is sometimes I would just apply one base coat for the whole day. And that's like 5 minutes. And that's it. That's my whole hobbying for the whole day. And sometimes, some weeks, I would apply one base coat. Actually, for most of my days, I would always just apply one base coat every day. And I think if I look at some of my minis, it would take me around maybe just 3 weeks of just one base coat every day. And after 3 weeks, I get maybe 10-15 minis done. I'm going to show you a clip of what my whip table looks like. So you're going to see Space Marines, you're going to see a diorama, you're going to see some commissions there. That table looks the same for a good 2 or 3 weeks. And maybe in the 3rd or 4th week, that's the only time you see that, oh wow, it's come together, it's being built. Just because in the first 3 weeks, it's just one base coat. Sometimes I'm just base coating the purity seal and I'm done for the day. And I know it seems small, but it's slow and steady progress. And the way I want you to appreciate this is you look at your hobby process, look at all the steps that you take, how many colors will you use, how many base coats do you apply, how many days does it take you to build, how many days does it take you to do this, and then split all those into tiny bite-sized chunks. And then sometimes you'll see that maybe in a month's time, you'll be able to finish 5 projects or 2 projects. So what I do is I think there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects on my table. And that just means 5 steps every day or 5 base coats. Maybe I could be base coating the squad of Marines. Maybe I could just be gluing the heads of these guys. Maybe I'll just be drilling holes in these guys. Maybe I'll just be doing research on the color palette in these guys. And that's maybe like 15 minutes combined, maybe. And the reason why I think this is effective is because some people, they really just hold off painting for maybe a good month or so. And then when a deadline comes or when a tournament comes or when they just feel like they haven't hobbied and they get inspired, they hit the table and they start painting. like mad, and they make great progress, and then they're back into that whole hobby rut of just waiting for that inspiration. Now I know there are a lot of people, even successful people, that work that way. Someone told me about how Stephen King writes differently from George R. Martin, and I think Stephen King has the habit of writing every day, and George R. Martin has a habit of writing when he's inspired, because those are two different types of people. And for George R. Martin, I think when he rides off that inspiration. So I guess how you would apply that to the hobby is to break apart your entire process into bite-sized chunks that you could commit to no matter what every day. And when I mean no matter what, I mean when there's inspiration and when there's no inspiration, I can do it. Because there are some days when there's so much time in my day, but the inspiration to paint is not there. Whereas there are also other days where I'm super freaking tired, but the inspiration to paint is there, and there's no time. There's literally no time. It's like 12 midnight or 3 a.m. and I have to wake up the following day. So waiting on inspiration is great. I think riding on that inspiration is great, and when you're painting, you ride that flow. It's great. But the reason why I fall back to hobbying every day and keeping my goals small is because it unfrees me from the shackles of being chained to waiting for inspiration. Inspiration is unpredictable. Inspiration is very hard to control. The idea is to program myself to self-motivate. And the best way to do that is start small, plan my goals small. But in my mind, when I finish at one base coat, I rest easy. The guilt is gone. I'm easily alleviated, and I'm no longer out of the rut, and I can say that, okay, check, I did my hobbying for the day. I don't feel bad about not painting. I don't feel bad about delaying that stuff, and I'm able to fulfill that hobbying for that day. And if I do feel like doing more, it's just extra gravy on top. Let's do another base coat. Let's do a wash. Let's do a highlight. But whatever I do within that day, as long as I did my minimum, I feel great about it. Keeping my daily hobby goals small is the first step into building a habit of hobbying every day. So slowly and surely, you'll eventually get there. The idea is not to finish as fast as we can. The idea is to alleviate the worry and the guilt that we'll never finish. A lot of us look at our backlog and say, I'm never gonna do this. But when I know that one day I'll eventually do this because every day I'm whittling against it, I know I'll blow out that backlog. Or even if I add more to my backlog, it's not gonna worry me because every day I know I'm gonna be chipping away at that backlog. So that's the whole idea of this turtle and rabbit mindset. Slow and steady. The idea is to get the guilt and worry outside of our system so that we can enjoy hobbying every day. So give a thumbs up if that super blew your mind, and a thumbs up still if that didn't blow your mind, because like this is my first episode and I'd love like the super support. Yeah. Second part, or the second thing, is to manage your expectations. And when I say manage your expectations, you manage your expectations with yourself. So going back to our first step, we talked about our small hobby goals, and that's a commitment. That's a small, tiny contract you make with yourself. When you hobby every day, you get to manage your own expectations because you're determining the minimum goal requirement for yourself. And the reason why I want you guys to manage your expectations is because it removes the pressure to do great things. I'm not saying you're never going to be doing great things, but the pressure to do it is there. The idea is we're pressured because the faster we paint, the more we get to play with these minis, but faster painting just adds more pressure. Not hitting our fast goals gives us guilt, and pressure and guilt just stops us from painting. I don't want to feel pressured by the hobby. I don't want to feel good with the hobby because this is a hobby. This is supposed to make me feel great. Manage your expectations. If you're gonna say that I'm gonna hobby every day and I'm gonna do 5 steps a day, that better be an expectation to yourself that you can do it. So for me, I can only do 1 step a day. So for sometimes I really just paint like the eyes, or like maybe I just paint like I'll just paint all the gold bits on this mini, which is just like the part here, and it may take like 2 seconds to do. It may take like 5 minutes. It doesn't matter the time length, it doesn't matter the effort, but what matters is I checked off that goal and that I managed my expectations, that I'm able to meet the contract with myself. If in the first step we're trying to alleviate the guilt that stops us from painting, in this step we're alleviating the pressure for us to do more painting. That's the beauty of it. We're the only ones commanding ourselves, and we should give ourselves a great time by not giving ourselves a hard time and relieving the pressure from hobbying. Now, the third one I think is the more obvious thing about hobbying every day is just basically be consistent. Putting that together with the first two things of thinking about a minimum goal, making sure you can meet that minimum goal, and consistently hitting that minimum goal is the trifecta to hobbying every day. Which means every day I am slowly pushing that backlog. Every day I'm slowly building up better layers for that glaze. Every day I'm just building up to the end goal. And I rest easy knowing that at the end of a few weeks, for sure, this project will be done. Being consistent then goes into becoming a habit for you, and you'll get to see the magic. And for me, the magic here is the work in progress that I have could look the same for maybe 5-7 days, as I mentioned, the 2-3 weeks. But when you look back on your first day, oh my God, I did so much in the span of 2 weeks. So you'll be surprised at how so many small, minuscule steps actually lead to a lot of big things. And the most important step, I think, even if you don't get to hobby every day, which I hope you do, but the most important step is just to remember that you're your own boss. You're doing this for you. If you don't like the current process, no one is saying, "Oh man, I gotta stick to this." If you can't stick to it, it's fine. No one's grading you, no one's paying you. Well, maybe some of you commission artists are being paid for this, but for the most of us in the hobby, we're doing this for ourselves. So if you feel like you can do the hobbying every day for the first 5 weeks and then something happens, something life-changing happens, and you feel like, I don't think I can do this anymore, that's fine. You're your own boss. Change your contract with yourself. Maybe instead of doing 2 steps a day, you're just doing 1 step a day. Or maybe instead of doing 1 step a day, you're doing half a step a day. Sometimes I commit to doing something for the rest of the month, and if something happens, I just change that and I say, okay, instead of doing this every day, I'll just do like half of this every day. That control over predetermining what I'll do, it gives me more room to enjoy it. You know, I know I talk a lot about hobbying as if it's a work schedule. A lot of us see it sometimes as that it's a burden for us to paint so many things. And part of this channel is to bring back the joy in painting lots of minis and not being overwhelmed by our backlog. So remember that you're doing this for yourself. It's hard, especially in my case, because I like to compare. So when I go online, I look at so many people and they paint so many beautiful things. Like I see heavy metal painters who paint beautiful marines way faster than the crappy marines I do in like a month. It can be very degrading, but I just remind myself, I'm not painting to impress this person that I see online. I'm painting to make myself happy, and what makes me happy is if I achieve my mini hobby goal every day. Set a time, set a schedule, set a goal, and then experiment. Maybe the first few weeks, try this out, and because you're the boss, and you feel like it doesn't work for you, change it up again. Maybe your friend has a different method to do it, you have a different method of doing it, I have a different method of doing it, but find a way to fit a certain method you could be able to hobby every day. Sometimes I would really literally cheat and not paint for the whole day, but my hobby progress is counted as organizing my paints maybe, or building a new box to put all my minis, or just researching a paint scheme and Googling a tutorial. And for me, that's my hobby progress for the day, because the following day I'll be applying that paint scheme on the actual mini I'm working on. Experiment, find what you want to do, and hobby every day. My next favorite part of benefit here is the pile of shame no longer looks like a pile of shame. It just looks like a pile of stuff that I know I'll eventually do. And even if I buy more minis, I realize the pile of shame is it's an ever-existing, infinite thing. It's always going to be there. So might as well look at it and not be daunted by it. Might as well look at it and see and remember, yep, I have a process. I know I'm going to get through that. And even if I get through that, I'm gonna be fine knowing if that pile of shame adds up because I have a process. And speaking of small steps, this is my first small step into making a YouTube channel about hobby motivation and productivity. So I would appreciate it if you would take a small step into subscribing and clicking the bell icon to see more of what I could provide for you guys. Or maybe even take a smaller extra step to share to the other viewers down below how you motivate your friends, how you motivate yourself, how you stay motivated. Because the more motivated we are, the more productive we can be, the more fulfilled we are in the hobby, the less pressure, the less guilt we feel, and the happier we are in the hobby, and the more we get to stay and do what we love doing. So I hope this was beneficial to everyone, and do share it to people who you think need that little push. This has been Louie of Louie Loves Minis reminding you to hobby every day to keep the sprues away.